Hey everybody, Jim here with another video for you. This is Shocktober Volume 11, Home Invasion Horror. But at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe. Most importantly, leave comments below. Let me know how you feel about films in this genre and overall, and what some of your favorites are that I didn't mention. Now again, the home invasion trope can be used in many different ways. But the way I've always looked at it is either somebody is trying to break into your home or they're already there and you don't know it. Or in some cases, you broke into the wrong home. And we've got examples from all of those different types of tropes from the actual home invasion genre. But I want to stress some of the earlier titles that, are just classics that I don't have in my collection that would fit into this category. Films like Wait Until Dark with the great Audrey Hepburn, or the original version of When a Stranger Calls with Carol Kane and Charles Durning. We used to torment my sister with that one. She was a babysitter when that movie came out, and my brother would crank call the house that she was at and say, "Why haven't you checked the children?" Shit like that, okay? But we're going to start off with a couple early examples of films where either, they're already in the house or you invite them in and they're the wrong people. The first one is Black Christmas, directed by Bob Clark and starring Olivia Hussey, John Saxon, Margot Kidder, Keir Dullea, among others. Not only is this a home invasion thriller, spoiler alert for a movie that is now, 50 years old, but the killer's in the house, the whole time. But many credit this also as being one of the first slashers, and it's definitely that, because it's both in one. But Black Christmas is a classic. It's a great movie. It's been remade a couple of times. Stick with the original. Here's one around the same time that you invited the wrong people in. The Last House on the Left. This was the debut feature film from Wes Craven. And in this particular story, the main character gets kidnapped at the beginning, gets assaulted by a gang, left for dead. She gets home. Her parents welcome her in, and are trying to help her. And then the gang shows up at the house saying that they need help themselves. And when they get inside, the parents realize that this is the gang that assaulted their daughter in exact revenge. Very difficult watch. This one has also been remade, which is a decent remake. I don't own it, but as far as remakes go, that one's pretty good. But again, very, very difficult watch. In the last selection of having someone that's already in the house, Lee Winnell's remake of The Invisible Man. And when I say remake, I should say his spin on The Invisible Man, because it is. It is definitely a spin on the original story by H.G. Wells, but it's extremely effective. Elizabeth Moss stars in this movie. She is fantastic. And again, this movie has to deal with an abusive man. This woman gets away from him. He supposedly dies, but in fact, he is invisible and keeps tormenting her no matter where she goes. Great movie. Now we got a couple examples of breaking into the wrong house. And the first one is another film from Wes Craven, The People Under the Stairs. This one stars the great Everett McGill, Wendy Roby, and Ving Rhames, among others. This is kind of a dark comedy more than anything. I always thought it was. But again, people break into a house thinking that they could steal, and it turns out that this is literally a house of horrors. I really enjoy this. I actually met Wendy Roby and Everett McGill in a horror film convention when they were promoting this film back in the day, and only got to chat them up, for a couple of seconds, but they were both extremely nice people. Love this offbeat, crazy movie. But this one is incredible. Don't Breathe. Directed by Fede Alvarez and starring Stephen Lang in a career best performance, in a career full of great performances. Also starring Jane Levy and Dylan Minnette. Again, people break into a house thinking it would be an easy score. In this case, it's a blind man's house, and they think, no problem ripping this guy off. He's literally the boogeyman. This movie is fantastic. Excuse me. Then we've got some good old-fashioned just home invasion films. And the first one from the early 80s is Alone in the Dark. This one is directed by Jack Shoulder, who also directed Freddy's Revenge and The Hidden, among others. And again, this movie's got a fantastic cast. We're talking Jack Palance, Martin Landau, Donald Pleasance, Dwight Schultz, who was on the A-Team at the time, and Leland Van Loth, that's what his name is. He played Dynamo in The Running Man, the opera singing crazy guy who looked like a light bulb. He was also in Stir Crazy. This movie has to deal with some maniacs who break out of the nut house and break into the house of their new doctor because they think that he got rid of their old doctor. This is a crazy, crazy, crazy movie. And we've got kind of the gold standard, at least as far as the last 20 years goes in this genre. We're talking about The Strangers. Oh, sorry. That is the same case, or cover. This one stars Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, and it's directed by Brian Bertino. There's been a sequel to this, which I also own, Strangers. I forgot what it's called, actually, now that I think about it, because I'm having a brain fart. But this movie it's creepy as hell. And there it is right there. Why are you doing this to us? Because you were home. And that's what makes it so frightening. There's no rhyme or reason to what's happening to these poor people. Like I said, there's been a sequel. There's actually been a reboot, remake recently that was really cheap and it made a little bit of money. I haven't seen it, but it's the first of a 3-part trilogy that is supposed to be coming out within the next 18 months or so. Again, I like the sequel that I own. I love the original. This movie's great. And another one, kinda, at least in this particular case it fits, The Purge. Now, I'm not talking about The Purge films themselves as the series. I'm talking about the original Purge, starring Ethan Hawke and Lena Headey, among others. This one's directed by James DeMonico. We've got 5 of these movies and a TV series, and I do own all 5 of the movies. I've never seen the TV series. Sorry about the shaky cam. The Purge, again, it fits into the original movie, at least, fits into the home invasion genre because the whole hook on the movie is one day a year, all crime is legal. And these people are trying to get this homeless guy, and he gets into the house. The kid lets him into the house and locks it all up, and they want this guy, and they are going to come in and get him one way or the other. And for the rest of the movie, it's literally Ethan Hawke and his family fighting off these people. And when this movie came out and I heard about the hook, I was like, wow, it'll never happen, but that's kind of a cool concept. And I saw the movie and I was like, okay, it's a decent movie, but I don't give a shit about what happened inside the house. I want to see what happened in the outside world when this was going on. And that's what the rest of the series involves. And that's why there's a couple of chapters in this saga that I definitely prefer to the original. But as it is, this is still a really well-made film, well-acted film, and it's a decent movie. This one's great, though, and I am going to get this on Blu-ray eventually. You're Next. This one is directed by Adam Wingard, who is now doing the Kong versus Godzilla movies. And this one stars the wonderful, wonderful Barbara Crampton, but also Sherry Vincent as the final girl in this movie. And she's one of the best final girls of all time. Again, this involves like a family reunion, so to speak, parents and their adult children with their significant others. And these 3 guys in these animal masks show up randomly and just start killing them. And there are some twists involved in the plot, which I won't go into here. But as it is, this is kind of like a throwback. and it's so entertaining. I love, love, love You're Next. Then we're going to go to my Jordan Peele collection. We're going to go with the second film of his, Us, starring Winston Duke and Lupita Nyong'o. I cannot pronounce her name, but she's an incredibly talented actress. Elizabeth Moss is also in this movie. This is probably the most bizarre movie out of all of them on the list. And it's probably, well, I don't know, because a lot of people don't like Nope either, but it's a very divisive film. I really like it. It's creepy as hell. And the twist on this is not only is your house being invaded, but your entire community, everything is being invaded by creepy-ass clone versions of yours that live underground. I mean, I couldn't even begin to try to explain this plot, but it is really, really, really creepy. But speaking of creepy, and this is probably the hardest watch out of all of them, and I'm including Last House on the Left. This is a French film called Inside. This has also been remade, which I have not seen, and I heard that it's not good. I'm not going to try to pronounce the talent involved, but there's lots of talent involved with this movie. This is a home invasion movie. Here's the plot, because I got to go into it a little bit. I don't want to send anybody into this movie blind. The deal on this movie is there is a pregnant woman who, on Christmas Eve, is at home alone in a secluded house, who is getting ready to go in the next day to give birth. And she doesn't want the baby because at the beginning of the movie, her husband died and she's just lost the will to live. And she really just doesn't care about the baby inside of her. About that time, there's a knock at the door, and it's a woman dressed in a nurse uniform that just keeps saying, "Let me inside. I'm here for the child." The rest of the movie is literally this woman trying to get not only inside the house, but inside the woman to get the baby. And this movie is extremely graphic, and it's extremely disturbing because there is nothing on earth more vulnerable than a baby, much less a baby who is literally moments from being born. This movie is just unbelievably uncomfortable to watch, but my God, is it good. It's so effective. It's one of those movies that once you watch it, you'll never get it out of your head. We're going to end it on this one. Michael Mann's Manhunter. This is from 1986. It stars William Peterson and Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. I also want to give a shout out to Tom Noonan, who plays the Tooth Fairy Killer. This was my introduction to Hannibal Lecter. I had no idea who Hannibal Lecter was. I never read Red Dragon, which is the book that this movie is based on. And this was 4 years, almost 5 years before Silence of the Lambs came out. I saw this movie theatrically, mainly because I liked William Peterson, because I had seen him in To Live and Die in L.A. the year before. And this movie blew me away. I love, love, love Manhunter. Now, again, I'm not going to say that it's as good as Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is a classic, okay? And Brian Cox is definitely not the same as Anthony Hopkins. But you know what? Seeing this movie before seeing Silence of the Lambs and knowing who Hannibal Lecter was and having an image of him in my mind, it made such an impression on me, because Brian Cox is really creepy in this movie. He really is. And it sets up everything that Anthony Hopkins would so memorably portray in the years to come. This movie has also been remade. It was remade as Red Dragon, which was, as I said, the novel that this was based on. And in that particular case, it starred Edward Norton in the William Peterson role, and Anthony Hopkins came back in the Hannibal Lecter role. They just de-aged him, which was kind of dodgy. And Ray Fiennes played the Tooth Fairy. And a lot of people prefer that version. It is more faithful to the source material. But because I wasn't in love with that source material to begin with, because I wasn't in love with Anthony Hopkins as, in the title role, as Hannibal Lecter, I should say, I will always, always love this movie because, again, when I saw this, it was a clean slate in my brain. And I definitely prefer it over Red Dragon. I just do. It's very stylistic. It's very of its time. I mean, it looks like there's certain things in this movie that could go into Miami Vice, which makes sense because Michael Mann was the main creator behind Miami Vice. Doesn't matter. I absolutely love Manhunter. This particular edition, Scream Factory Blu-ray, is way out of print, going very expensive, especially with my slipcover on it. I was lucky to get this upon release. I will never, never, never sell this. I will keep this until I die, and then my kid or my niece will get it. But that's how we're going to end the home invasion horror segment of Shocktober. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, leave those comments below, and we'll catch you on the next one.